All right, Kevin, back with you for another episode of the $1 Million Relationships Podcast. And today I'm here with Cary Chessick. Cary, welcome. So awesome to have you.
Thank you, Kevin. Pleasure to be here. I appreciate you having me on.
You bet, you bet. And I want to give a shout out to Dan Hyrits. Now, you know what? I can say his name, Cary. I can't remember how to spell his last name for nothing without looking. but I absolutely love Dan. I interviewed him a while back for this podcast, and we've had some conversations since then. He and I have, and he was like, Kevin, he's like, you should really interview my friend Cary for the $1 Million Relationships Podcast. And so he ended up connecting you and I. We had a great conversation recently, and I was like, yep, Cary, Dan was right. We should totally do an interview for the podcast. And so here we are. And Dan, if you're listening to this, I want to give you a shout out, man, because I just really appreciate you, and thanks so much for connecting Cary and I. And so, Cary, with that, I want to start by just turning it over to you. I want to turn it over to you so you can set some context for us and talk about what you do, who you serve, what inspires you most about the work that you do, and also give us some backstory, some background on how you got into doing this line of work and what you do.
Got it. Well, so I'm an executive coach with a focus on sales, marketing, and execution. I have a very specific methodology of how to help entrepreneurs and CEOs and their teams with growth. And it starts with sales, marketing, and execution. My company is called Profitology. And I got into this first by really my first company, which was called restaurant.com. It was a deal site like Groupon.
Okay.
But many years before Groupon. And I looked at the people I worked with, my employees, in two ways. Taking it back even further, I was a lawyer, and I was a trial lawyer, and that'll have some relevance later. And I thankfully escaped being a lawyer and found the world of entrepreneurship. But I looked at, I didn't have any experience in sales or marketing. And so I looked at my job as to coach my employees to, be the best they could be with their skill set and their knowledge, but also looked and learned from them. They were my coach. I learned sales and marketing from my team.
Wow.
And I found a passion for coaching. For what it's worth, I've got married, and I got 3 kids, and I've my kids are now grown, but they did happen to count up one day and told me that I coached 33 of their teams. 33 of their sports teams.
Yeah.
Which I love doing. I just have a tremendous passion for coaching and for helping people really realize the most of their talent.
Mm-hmm.
And when people find that connection between what is their talent, what are they great at, and and can they do that at work, and can they get paid for it? It's really super gratifying for them.
For sure.
And so I've coached over the years, both individually and through team members that I have had over 10,000 coaching sessions with a tremendous amount of data available to us, which is and plus my 20-year plus career in entrepreneurship and coaching. It has really led to the methodology that I use today,
Okay.
that helps people grow their companies and get results that they're looking for, really. So
Yeah. And I know when you and I spoke before, you had the opportunity in that conversation to just really kind of walk me through a lot of what you do and how you do it, and it's just it was really fascinating to me. And so I pretty much any entrepreneur that is listening to this, especially those who just believe so strongly in what they do, I'm going to make sure we share some of your resources with them, because it's just going to really impact them and just allow them to get their messaging out there in a more powerful way and stuff too and stuff. And so I'll make sure we cover some of that, because I really appreciate it. I mean, what was really evident to me, not only was I fascinated by the stuff that you were sharing, but I was like, dang, I can see why Dan connected us, because man, Cary's got some chops, man. He knows what the heck he's doing, And so I'm just gonna throw that in there. And
thank you.
so
Well,
okay, yeah, go ahead.
I failed a lot.
Well, yeah, right. We all do that, don't we?
I'm not kidding. Trial and error is an amazing way to learn.
Yeah.
And it has been the foundation of kind of the three-pronged approach that I take today to help people grow their companies, sell more, and even change what they do in terms of how they spend their time, and help them focus on things they love to do more. It's and that, even in and of itself, there are always things that, at any job where people have to take certain things on their plate that they don't love, but part of the process helps people focus on the things they love the most, and then orients them that way.
Yes. Yeah. And when we can spend more of the time doing the stuff that we just really enjoy, and like you said, do it when we can figure out how to do something that we just really enjoy, that we like figure out how we can make that into a business that compensates us. Man, what a powerful thing, because you're right, we get so much satisfaction from the work that we do and stuff. I mean, really, I know I won't speak for others, but I know for me, it doesn't seem like work. I love doing what I get to do and stuff. And it is great satisfaction for sure.
Same.
So,
It's achievable. And the other thing I've seen over the years, if you are able to, if you're an entrepreneur or CEO and you can scale a company and you can grow and grow and grow, you start hiring more people, you impact more families, you impact more customers.
Yeah.
Of course, there's stress with growth, but there's tremendous satisfaction with growth.
Absolutely. Okay, so now that we've got a little bit of context set, I'm going to switch gears here just a little bit, and I'm going to reiterate the question for the benefit of the listeners. So, Cary, have you ever been introduced to a person or person that completely changed the course of your life or your business, so much so that much of what you have today would not be possible if not for this person or persons? And Cary, I'm just like really excited to hear your story around this topic of relationships.
Yeah, so I'm in YPO, Young Presidents Organization.
Okay.
I've been in, in YEO, or EO now, the Younger Sister Organization, and then YPO since 2003.
Okay.
YEO in 2003, YPO in 2007. I was attending an event in Chicago, and had a speaker in, and we had a room of whatever 100 CEOs in the room. This guy is also a YPO member. His name is Keith McFarland. He happened to be formerly the dean of the Pepperdine Business School. Very, very smart person. He wrote a New York Times best-selling book called The Breakthrough Company, which in my words, not his, is the sequel to Good to Great. So Jim Collins wrote the famous book Good to Great. What are the top 10 things per se that make the public companies outperform the rest of the market? And Keith McFarland wrote the book The Breakthrough Company, which was an analysis of what made the top 10 private companies outpace the marketplace. With
Okay.
public companies, there are different pressures than private companies, and the vast majority of small to businesses and middle market companies in the US are private. So it's a tremendous endeavor, a tremendous research project. And he wrote the book. He came and talked about some of the principles. And all I knew, he was a professor and an author and a speaker. And when I heard him speak, I just said, I need more of that, whatever that is. And so he helped me grow. He came on in. As a consultant, he helped me grow my company. He became my mentor and friend, and taught me too many lessons to recount on this podcast.
Wow. Wow. So if you look back at this, so when was it that you and Keith first met?
2007, I believe.
2007. So we're talking, that's that's like 15, 16 years ago. And
Yeah.
so if you look back over the last 15, 16 years, and I want you, I'm sure you can come up with a number of examples, but I just want to encourage you to come up with one. It'll be the first one that just comes top of mind for you. But if you look where, you had the opportunity personally, where you got to make a really substantial impact, and you also know, hands down, that would have never happened if not for what transpired between you and Keith and the relationship that you guys have. What is an example of something like that where you got to make a really substantial impact as a result of this relationship?
So I'll tell you, right up to just a couple months ago.
Okay.
So I was coaching an entrepreneur, great business, great entrepreneur. And one of I have three distinct strategies that I teach.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is a version of what Keith taught me.
Okay.
So simple to say, so complex to do, but I wouldn't be teaching this without Keith.
Okay.
It's called stack ranking revenue, in my words, not his. In its simplicity, it means do the things that make you the most money in the shortest period of time first. So a lot of things on your plate, a lot of different ways you can prioritize the projects within your company. Stack ranking revenue, working on the things, you and the team working on the things that make you the most money in the shortest period of time first before other things, yields great results.
Yeah. Yeah.
It sounds simple. It's hard to do.
So, and you're right. It does sound really simple. So, Cary, what makes it so difficult to actually do, to actually implement that?
So, oftentimes people work in quarters. So, hey, let's set a goal for the quarter, right?
Okay.
Or let's set 3 goals or 5 goals. Oftentimes these goals are not in a structure that I coach people to put them in. The structure I coach them to put them in are this format. They should be time bound, they should be specific, and they should be measurable. Mm-hmm. So our team, regardless of department, sales, marketing, ops, tech, whatever department you have in your company, this is our goal. We're going to accomplish this very specific goal it's going to be done by this day. It's going to result in this amount of revenue, this amount of net profit. Or if you don't have enough data to predict 90 days out, or 63 business days, you can put a high, medium, or low next to the goal.
Okay.
Now, let's say you have 6 goals. They will inevitably have different revenue implications for the company. If the company can align itself and work on the things that generate the most amount of money in the shortest period of time, there's short-term revenue implications and also long-term revenue implications. And the hardest thing that I have seen for teams to wrap their head around is to accurately put the revenue implication next to that. And followed by, the reason I say there are 63 business days in a quarter is to reach a 90-day goal or a 63 business day goal, teams also have to execute weekly and monthly. So how much can the team get done in 5 days? And when you start, what are the tasks necessary in 1 week and then in every week necessary to accomplish that goal? If you have the goal and you work backwards, there are a lot of tasks typically that a team has to execute in a particular order to reach their goals. And often teams will not then also put the tasks in a format where the tasks that they have to do are time-bound, specific, and measurable. So this team member is going to do this thing to generate this amount of revenue. And when you stack rank the goals and the tasks, more importantly, in a format that's time-bound, specific, and measurable, you have teams of people working on the things that generate the most revenue in the shortest period of time. And now this is human. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes.
And this is, there's some human behavior at odds with this, which makes it hard. There's a couple things.
Okay.
A lot of people will work top of the inbox down, meaning, your day starts, you open up your computer, you look at your inbox, and you start rifling away at what, any new thing that's coming in. And the other thing at work, top of the inbox down may be getting you feel good because you maybe have a cleaner inbox, and you're less frazzled. At the same time, I don't think I've ever seen top of the inbox down also stack ranking the highest revenue projects first. And then there's this other thing called human nature, where we like to work on the things that we're good at, and we're typically good at the things we like, and we like to procrastinate the things that we're not good at.
Yep.
Or that we don't like.
Yeah.
And so now if you multiply that out by teams of people, you have a lot of people working on things that they like and procrastinating on things they don't like, having no relationship to the revenue of the company.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you imagine if you could all work on the high impact, high revenue things first? You can get a lot more, can make a lot more impact, get a lot more done, and generate a lot of revenue faster. If everyone's rowing, the boat in the same direction.
Yep.
Working on the things that matter most first.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So what makes it hard is people don't think in an organization, usually it's like the CEO and the CFO that think about payroll. Most people don't make a connection between the tasks that they're going to work on and the payroll. Payroll just drops in, automatically every 2 weeks, right? Well, imagine if people beyond the CEO and the CFO were thinking about making payroll. Then you have a sense of urgency where people start thinking like, wow, let's work on the things that'll make the most money in the shortest period of time, because we got to make payroll in 2 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. I'm not saying you have to go say, hey, people, we have to make payroll. I'm just giving you an example.
Yep.
That This is setting a, we got to make payroll mindset in the teams of people. If you're the entrepreneur and you're running the company, that's something that keeps you up at night. But it doesn't have to keep the employees up at night, but it's a way to help you sleep at night.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So how have you found that, what are some ways to like get employees and team members on board for this, and having self-serving reasons to want to, just focus on and get away from, like, our natural tendencies to, avoid the things we don't like and just do the things we do like, that may be not in alignment with most profitable and quick ways to produce revenue in the company.
Yeah. So, well, I implement a system where I use Basecamp. It's a project management tool, a
Okay.
software platform. Now, we'll talk about the two other aspects of the way I coach and what I'm teaching, which is called pitch before product and the sales and marketing pendulum. That's where we start. And it's these other two processes, pitch before product and the sales and marketing pendulum, the output of which creates all the goals and tasks.
Okay.
And we'll circle back to those two strategies, but the output of which is the goals and tasks in this format. And so what happens is, even though left alone, people will have a tendency to run their day maybe differently, where they're going to work top of the inbox down or work on the things that they like better. If given the tools and the visibility and shared accountability across team members, where everyone now agrees, here are the goals that we as a team are trying to achieve, and here are the tasks necessary to complete those goals, and here are the high impact tasks necessary to complete those goals, here are the medium, and here are the low. And it's in a framework where everyone has exposure to it. Generally speaking, team members don't raise their hand and say, hey, I'm super excited to work on an extremely low revenue opportunity today, because that's what I like to do.
That's right.
So it's a way of it's giving them permission to work on things that are harder and more important, because most people really want to do a great job.
Yeah.
Most people want to help other people in their company succeed.
Yeah.
And when there's team accountability, most people don't want to do things that don't help the other people on their team.
Yeah.
And so it does take a burden off the CEO or the leader when you can have the system itself coach the employee to do the high revenue things first.
Yes.
And I also call this one the meeting killer.
Okay.
So a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of teams love innovation, as they should, coming up with new kinds of ideas, like, and it's not uncommon for team members to come running into the CEO's office or virtual office or Slack channel or what have you and say, I got an amazing idea. What do you think of this? Well, I most certainly encourage that. I always want to encourage innovation, and especially broadly into teams, and never stifle innovation. You want the collective input from all the team members. If you give the team members the tools to run their ideas through a stack ranked revenue system, here's what's going to happen. Some ideas are going to end up with a very high revenue, easy to do, short-term time frame, but not very many. There aren't a ton of ideas that are just sitting right in front of people that haven't been thought of, where like, hey, we can make a boatload of money in a really short period of time if we do this. Usually they're somewhere out there already. The new ideas, occasionally they'll fall into that group, but a lot of times these new ideas are medium revenue ideas or low revenue ideas.
Okay. Okay.
So if the employee comes up with an idea and they first put it through the system of stack ranking it, I'd like to work on this task to in this time frame to generate this amount of revenue, and it's a medium or low revenue idea. There are systems for capturing the idea, preserving it, making sure it's on the future to-do list. But you would rarely see somebody running into the CEO's office saying, I got this amazing low revenue idea that I'd love to pitch you.
Yes. Yes.
So
Yeah.
you tend not to have the meeting about those kinds of things.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. That totally makes sense. That totally makes sense. It gets people focused on, like you said, what biggest revenue opportunities in the shortest amount of time. And it just keeps the focus right there. And so, okay.
And so you asked the question, why is it hard when it's so simple to say? Why is it so hard to do? It's so hard to do because that's the employee base at large. They're not the CFO and they're not the CEO, and they're not thinking about payroll. They're thinking about getting their job done and doing a good job and whatever they're doing. They're not thinking about how do I stack rank my tasks to generate the most revenue. They're not thinking about that.
Yeah.
They've got a long list of things. This CEOs can help them with a framework to say, here's the system we run.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to do because people normally don't assign revenue implication to the tasks they're assigned.
Yeah. 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 And if they did, the outcome would be dramatically different.
It is different when they do it. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so you alluded to two other pieces of this, two other arms, two other things, and you said, well, circle back to those. And I know you and I spoke about these before, so I do want to make sure we cover those, because just not the stacking and ranking, but there's these two other pieces that people need to be aware of, and I want to make sure we at least just touch on those.
Yeah. So the first strategy that I use is called pitch before product. So what are the words and images you have to say and show a potential buyer to make sure they pay you money today?
Okay.
Now, do you have a sales script? Do you have frequently asked questions? Do you have objections and the top three best answers to the top three objections? You probably do. Maybe you don't have them in a written format, but you could easily turn on a Zoom call and record and transcribe your sales pitch. You could write out your top three FAQs or frequently asked questions, the best answers you have today. Yep. And you could write out the top three objections you get, price, competition, whatever they may be, and the best answers you can think of today. Here's how I came up with pitch before product. And now going back to my lawyer days. Heck, in a courtroom, you're giving a closing argument, and there's cases where we work on for 5 years, and you get to the closing argument, there's the judge, there's the jury, just like you see on TV. You have a very short period of time to say something captivating and compelling and convincing, like persuasive, and think of all the words you can use in the order you can use them in.
Yeah.
Now, like, a sales presentation might be 10, 15, 20 minutes. Think of all the combination of words. What is the most compelling, the most captivating, the most convincing, the most persuasive thing you can say to get them to buy from you today? Yeah. Now, what are the processes you have put in place to make sure you are using customer feedback from your sales calls to make your sales pitch captivating, compelling, and convincing? Usually, there are not systems in place to grab the data coming from the customer's mouth and leveraging that data to optimize the sales pitch. And so my first YPO business, the first business model, we did the traditional thing. We raised money, we built a product with a lot of engineers, we went out to market, and nobody would buy from us.
Okay. Okay.
So we started over. We raised money, we built a product, we went out to market. This is before lean startup, but it's the same thing. It's just that you do this faster. You go, we raised money, went out to market, we tried to sell it, didn't sell. So after about 5 years of this, the third time was a charm, by the way, and that did sell. But it occurred to me, wouldn't it be amazing if before I started a company, or anyone started a company, or no matter where they are today in their entrepreneurial journey, they looked at the sales pitch and said, I am going to write an absolutely amazing sales pitch, the best I can possibly think of. And I'm going to write the words and images out so that if I show a buyer I say these words and I show these images, they're going to pay me money. If I'm so convinced that they're going to pay me money, and now I work backwards. By the way, is anything I said, hopefully my product or my service offers what my pitch does. If not, maybe you got to tweak your product or your service to match your pitch. This is a sales pitch that will close deals. Instead of let's build a product and hope somebody buys it, what's the sales pitch that will close deals, and let's build it.
Yeah.
And a great exercise is go out and pitch it to 100 people. Get some feedback. Let the customer build your frequently asked questions and the answers. Let your customer come up with the best responses to the objections. Through, they'll tell you, they're not going to be shy about it. Using customer data and systems to make your sales pitch more compelling and convincing and captivating, you're going to close deals faster. Start with the pitch and work backwards to the product or the service. That's pitch before product. People would save a lot of time and money if they obsess over optimizing the sales pitch. And what usually happens, I have an idea, I'm an entrepreneur. I know how to solve a problem. I'm going to start a company. We're going to build a product or service. We're going to go out to market and we're going to sell it. And oftentimes the entrepreneur maybe can sell it, but then they hire salespeople and they don't get the same results. And that sales deck that's a year old or 2 years old and they're still using it. And that script that, they wrote, or the training they have from 6 months or a year ago or 2 years ago, they're still using it. That's not leveraging the customer words and conversations to optimize the sales pitch. And so that's pitch before product. What happens when here's a great assignment for anyone running a company that wants to just even take a little stab at this. What's the number one objection you get? What's the best response you can think of? Or what's your current response? And can you think of a better one? Or an alternative one that might be better. Go try A and B and see what the market says about A and B. It's a simple one. Maybe most people aren't sitting around thinking, how do I overcome objections better, and in putting that into a system. Now this goes back to stack ranking revenue. And here's the connection between the two. If you could come up with an amazing response to the number one objection, that's a pretty high priority, because if you can overcome the number one objection you get, you're going to close more deals faster.
Yeah.
you're gonna reduce the sales cycle and reduce the cost of acquisition.
Yep. Yep.
So even that one little project, I don't know how many lines are in your sales pitch, maybe 75 lines, but even if you just took the one line, the number one objection, make the response better.
Yeah.
You got it. That could be a high revenue, high impact opportunity if in fact your salespeople are presenting to a lot of people.
Yeah.
So that's number one, pitch before product.
Okay.
Number two is what I call the sales and marketing pendulum.
Okay.
So use that sales data. Let's say you get you do optimize the response to that number one objection that you get all the time, and it starts to work. Wouldn't it be great to take those words directly from the customer's mouth? Here's the objection. Here's my response. That combination of words that seems to overcome the objection and get you the deal. Take that data back to marketing if you have a marketing department or you're running lead gen campaigns, and use those words and images or something very close to them in your lead gen campaigns. Make that objection your strength. Target people top of the funnel and get them to come on through and fill out a contact us form and set up an appointment with your salesperson based. So overcome the objection before it even gets to your salespeople.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I'll give you an example.
Okay.
We were I was working with a salesperson. He was talking to, we'll call it a competitor of like Ring Doorbell ish, somebody in the consumer electronics field. And one of the most challenging things for that client was if their team members could not solve the technical problems that the consumer electronic was having, and they couldn't solve it over the phone, and the company had to roll the trucks. We're like, what does roll the trucks mean? And it means we have to send a technician out. They have to get in the truck and drive out there and go
Roll
into
the trucks.
roll the trucks, go into the consumer's home.
Yep.
So what do we do? That was the number one fear of the buyer.
Okay.
I just can't roll the trucks. Now we took those words and pulled them back into marketing and built a whole campaign about don't roll the trucks. Now, who does that speak to? That speaks to that buyer right there.
Yep.
They see that ad like, don't roll the trucks. That doesn't mean anything to you and me, but wow, to that buyer, click, I want to talk to this company.
Yeah.
And
they get me.
They get me. That's using sales data for marketing.
Yep.
And the reverse, use marketing data. So take marketing is going to do all kinds of testing to figure out what ad campaigns are going to work, whether green or blue or this word or that word are going to result in people filling out a form to contact a salesperson. Mm-hmm. And I help these companies set up systems and entrepreneurs where they will take the data, the successful data from their marketing campaigns, and pull it into sales, share it with the salesperson. And once we've developed an agile way for them to A/B test or test different sales pitches or presentations or words or images, it's much easier for them to take a successful marketing campaign. They set up a call. Wouldn't it be nice to use the words from the marketing campaign that led the person to set up the call with the salesperson in that sales presentation? This is what resonated, in a Google ad, for example, or in a social media post.
Yeah.
These are the words that resonated with this potential buyer. Why not share that with the salesperson and build systems to help them introduce those words for that particular buyer?
Yeah.
So if you combine these three things, pitch before product, optimizing the words and images that are captivating, compelling, and convincing, such that you increase the likelihood of closing more deals faster. pitch before product. You use the sales and marketing pendulum. You use sales data for marketing and marketing data for sales. You take two distinct departments that traditionally work in silos. You merge them effectively by creating a system of data sharing. You're going to generate more leads that are qualified leads, helping your salespeople close faster. And if you stack rank revenue, you have both your sales and marketing teams and other departments, for what it's worth, working on the things that generate the most revenue in the shortest period of time. You got a great recipe for growth.
Yeah. Wow. That is powerful stuff right there. And, you know, I really appreciate you taking the time to share all this, Cary, because we don't normally go into like this kind of detail about processes on this podcast, but I was so blown away by you sharing this with me when we talked originally that I'm like, man, I want Cary to share this on the podcast, because I know there's going to be entrepreneurs listening to this going, man, and so Cary, for anybody that's listening to this going, man, Kev, I really like Cary. I appreciate what he was sharing. And how can I find out more about the work that he's doing? How can I get in contact with him? What's the best way for people to do that, Cary?
Well, they can email me, Cary, Cary at profitology.com. That's a very simple one. They can hit me up on LinkedIn. I'm pretty easy to find.
Okay.
I'd say those are the two simplest ways.
There you go. Awesome. Well, once again, I want to thank you so much for making the time to have this conversation. I really appreciate it, and I'm excited to get this out there. Any last thing you feel led to share before we call it a wrap, Cary?
Yeah, one thing I've always built into the very fabric of, first of all, I would also like to thank our mutual friend Dan for connecting us, and I'd like to thank you for, you know, having me on today. One other thing that I've really always tried to weave into anything I do is a bit of a pay it forward mentality, or even better yet, when I've been able to build pay it forward programs.
Okay.
So there are I know I'm not going to go into some long kind of explanation of this. Occasionally I will coach someone pro bono if for some reason they're in a life situation that warrants it. So I do that. I'm doing it now. And so if for any reason somebody's in a jam, but they need my help, I want to help them. Well, wow, Cary, that's a really generous offer. And so, you know, thank you for that. I mean, man, that's really generous. And so, so for anybody listening to this, if that's kind of where you are too, reach out to Cary. And Cary, once again, thank you so much for taking the time to have this conversation. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate you. Thank you for having me on. It's been fun. Absolutely.